To each one of these sons, the unborn creator of the universe gave a part of his own body, which was characterized by deep meditation, mental concentration, supernatural power, austerity, adoration, and renunciation. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The word Viraktimat in this verse means possessed of the qualification of renunciation. Spiritual realization cannot be attained by materialistic persons. For those who are addicted to sense enjoyment, spiritual realization is not possible. In Bhagavad Gita it is stated that those who are too attached to seeking material possessions and material enjoyment cannot reach yoga samadhi, absorption in Krishna consciousness. Propaganda that one can enjoy this life materially and at the same time spiritually advance is simply bogus. The principle of renunciation are four. First, to avoid illicit sex life. Second, to avoid meat eating. Third, to avoid intoxication. And fourth, to avoid gambling. These four principles are called tapasya or austerity. To absorb the mind in the Supreme, in Krishna consciousness, is the process of spiritual realization. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the third canto, 20th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshomilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Kirim Yat Kripatamang Vande Shri Gurundinataranam Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swabanandikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Tebhyas Shaikai Kasha Swasya Dehasyang Samadadajaha Yatat Samadhi Yogardhi Tapo Vidya Viraktimat. To each one of these sons, the unborn creator of the universe gave a part of his own body, which was characterized by deep meditation, mental concentration, supernatural power, austerity, adoration, and renunciation. Hare Krishna. This was the last verse of this chapter, in which there was the creation discussed. So in general, the Bhagavatam, in the first verse of the Bhagavatam, this topic or this principle of creation is indicated, and then later on the Bhagavatam goes into detail explaining that. The question is, where is everything coming from? And the Bhagavatam starts immediately with this declaration that everything comes from God. And we see this in many religions, that this is kind of one of their first aphorism to pronounce, that everything comes from God. To create also the faith and give knowledge. Because it's for a human being a natural question. One of the most natural questions when we start thinking, when we really start thinking, is the first thing, where is everything coming from? And why is everything here? So the Bhagavatam starts with this Chanmadhyasya yataha Chanmadhyasya yato anvayat itarataschatesh abhigyasvarat. That everything comes from Brahman, everything comes from God. And then later on this is explained how it comes from God, how it works, how everything gets created. And here in this part we have it in detail, this explained how the different living entities are created. Even the animals are explained, different kinds of animals, how they came about. And then later on, the higher living entities are created. And here now we heard how the most important sages were created. So they are kind of a own species. These sages or rishis, yeah, the rishi, they are our own species. They are in that sense not regular humans. These are not rishis from our planet, so to say. They are different. These are alien rishis, alien sages. Yeah, different. We were created before that this was said that we come from Manu, Swayambhuva Manu. Yeah? Manu was also created from the body of Brahma. So how does it work? There's a creator, an original demiurge it's called, a creator God, who is not the first God or the original God. Right? The original God is Krishna. This is different. But Krishna puts in a universe the creator in place who populates the universe and puts everything in place. And in many religions, this is their most important understanding and aspect of God. God, what is God? God is the creator. But we don't say that. We say, yes, God is also the creator, but not primarily, actually. If it would be so important, then Krishna would do it himself. But Krishna is not creating himself. He says, I have something more important to do. Of course, he could do it simultaneously. Why doesn't he create and does something else, whatever he likes to do? Yeah, this is Krishna's, actually his grace to leave also important jobs to others. And this is also important for our management. Yeah? Real management means to empower others, not to grab the power only for yourself and think nobody is qualified to do it. A real good manager and leader empowers others to act in his will, and that they are so qualified to really do the job. It's an interesting principle, actually. And when we're bad leaders, we think we have to do everything on our own, and we have to, and we'll become completely frustrated, because how can I do everything? So Prabhupada calls this lazy intelligence. This is the best intelligence, the lazy intelligence. When you know everything, but you instruct others to do it, and it works. Yeah? So, and at the same time, to lead, to do, to be responsible is also a kind of satisfaction. So these demigods, they are enjoying being demigods. Yeah? They are, good now I'll talk about the demigods, but like this Brahma, this creator, who is a demigod, he is happy being Brahma, he likes it, that's cool. To create everything, to be in charge of a universe, right? Of course, sometimes some stress is there too. Yeah. But this is natural, has to be. But at the same time, he can live out his propensities. And this is actually the plan of the whole universe. We might ask, why is there a universe? How could God create such a damn thing where everyone has to suffer? How could he do that? Yeah, he does it that all of us can live out their stupid dreams and ideas, which were not put in our minds by him. No, because we are independent living entities. To some degree, we have independence. We are created independent. To some degree, not absolute independence, but enough that we can be satisfied. And because of this independence, we can do more or less everything we want. And the universe is a place for all those who want to act on their own. And because we are very intelligent, we have many ideas, so there are so many varieties of living entities, so many activities that we can live out our crazy dreams. What? No, questions at the end, okay? That's our principle. Always question at the end. And if you have to write it down. Yeah, thank you. So this is the mercy, actually. The universe, the material world, is the mercy of Krishna, that we can do our stupid thing. Why stupid? My thing is not stupid. How dare you say? Maybe the others, yes, theirs is stupid, but mine is not stupid. Mine is not stupid. This is a great plan. This is very intelligent. I've thought about it a lot, and it's amazing. You only say stupid because you don't understand it. No, the material world in general is a place for stupid people. As intelligent as you might be. Because real intelligence means to understand there's Krishna. And we should act according to His desire, to His will. And this will make us happy. Everything else is verrückt. In German you say verrückt. The word in German, verrückt, it means crazy. But actually what it means it is put out of place. Verrückt. Rücken means like you push something and put it out of place. Yeah? So when we say someone is crazy, it's actually out of place. So the living entity in the material world is out of place. We are in the material world because actually, as we know, we are a soul, a spiritual living entity. And now we think we are someone else. So in this Brahma, he's enjoying doing that. He's very powerful. He populates the universe and he can create out of him, like Krishna. He can do that also. It's of course different because he's material, but still it's a similar principle. Because actually only Krishna can create, it's called ex nihilo. It's a Latin phrase, means out of nothing. No one else can create out of nothing. So also Brahma, he creates also out of him, which was already created by Krishna, and he arranges material elements, which were at first created by Krishna. So we speak in technical terms, Vedic technical terms here, of two creations. One is called Sarga, it's creation, and one is called Visarga, it's the secondary creation. Sarga means ex nihilo, out of nothing. Krishna creates out of him, it wasn't there before. In one sense you can say nothing was not there before, because also matter, as we know, is eternal. So the ex nihilo principle in one sense a little bit hampered by the understanding of eternity, but still just for our discussion's sake. He creates out of himself, out of the nothingness. This is Sarga, primary creation. And then he gives this creation and the elements to Brahma, who does Visarga, secondary creation. Jai Narasimhadev Bhagavan Ki Jai. Secondary creation, and then he puts everything in place. So in here we heard that he creates because he is the original Prajapati. Prajapati means the Lord of living entities. He creates the population of the universe. All the different species, they come from him. They don't come from Darwin. Some say Darwin did it. But we are not the grandsons of Darwin. Of course, Darwinian principle. Some think the evolutionary principle created everything. But no, we understand it's a so-called devolution. We call it devolution in some modern Vedic phrase. It's called devolution, right? Devolution. Not evolution, it's devolution. Meaning it's coming from the higher principle. The greater, the bigger, the more complex creates out of it comes the less complex. Whereas evolution would mean from the simple comes the more complex, and it gets from generation to generation, or from step to step it gets more complicated. So in the beginning you have just one cell living entity or just some amino acids or whatever, and then it becomes more complicated until a human being exists. But from Vedic point of view, we speak of devolution, meaning the prior living entities, they were more complex. And Brahma is way more complex and more powerful than his creations. And we can understand that also that we cannot create something more complex than ourselves. Even though this is nowadays the big idea, to create artificial intelligence, artificial consciousness, artificial humans, and one day they will be more powerful than us. Maybe it could happen that some machine or artificial intelligence takes over the world. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it is a more complex living entity, so to say. Because the human itself might be subordinate to such an artificial intelligence, but doesn't mean the artificial intelligence, just because of its raw power, so to say, is more complex than a human being. Because a human being has many aspects which cannot be simulated by machines. Actually, even consciousness will not be able to simulate it artificially. It seems to be, but it's not really. But anyway, this is a different topic. So Brahma, he created out of himself all these living entities, and now we hear he created these sages, or the Rishis. Rishi means also the seer. because they can see or perceive things which are not be perceived by us or other living entities. They have superior powers, they have mystical powers. And so he creates these sages and gives them certain shaktis, as we heard here, certain powers. And now we speak about these shaktis, what he gave them, different qualities. And so we can see a rishi is qualified by these. So what is the first? It's called, here, it was this one, huh? Samadhi Yogardhi. Samadhi Yogardhi. First is Samadhi. Everyone knows the word Samadhi, or? Everyone knows Samadhi. Samadhi means total absorption. Samadhi is also, as we know from the revered Patanjali, is the highest stage in yoga. Samadhi means when our consciousness is completely absorbed and there's no distraction anymore. Yeah. And there are different kinds of samadhis actually in the Yoga Sutras are described. There are different kinds of samadhis. It's not only one kind of samadhi. But the principle is that your consciousness is completely absorbed, there's no distraction anymore, and you are kind of one with the object of your meditation. You're not really become one, but your consciousness is so absorbed in that anything else is dissolved, and any other self-identification than that is dissolved, more or less. Not dissolved, it's not perceived anymore. So these sages, they have this samadhi, intense willpower, intense power of consciousness. That's what we don't have. That's what we're working on, right? We should work on that. But every one of us knows that our consciousness and our mind is very weak.
What don't we have?
This absorption. Yeah? We are very weak. It's very difficult for us to stay concentrated in our japa, in a lecture like that. Just always distractions. Easily distracted. Or in our studies and whatever. The mind goes off. So we have to learn to bring the mind back to be focused. Ekeha kuru nandana, it's called in Bhagavad Gita. If you want to be successful, you have to be one-pointed. And when you are many-branched, when your mind is many-branched, bahushaka means like many-branched, many ideas, many goals, yeah, you will not be successful. So this is one of the principles of any successful person, in the material and the spiritual realm. There's one goal, and you subordinate everything to this one goal, even yourself. Your whole lifestyle, likes, dislikes, have to go or conform to the goal. And the more we do that, the more you are successful. And this is also what we should do in Krishna consciousness. The goal is Krishna. Krishna Prema. And this is what I want and nothing else. Yeah? The more exclusive we become, the more effective we are. Yeah. And the opposite of this is called Bahushaka, this many branch. That's, Krishna and many other things also. Okay, I want Krishna also. Yeah. So we have to see how much can we subordinate to this lifestyle or to this goal and what not. But if you want to be successful, some things have to go. And this is also said here that the sages, they have this tapasya, and viraktimat, renunciation. They don't have these emotional attachments to so many things. Like if you clean up your room, everyone for sure cleans sometimes up. Yeah, you clean sometimes your room, especially when we were younger, and then we had to clean, and then you have this thing in your hand and say, it's disturbing, it's full of dust, but I still want to keep it. Oh, so many nice remembrance there, and I have to keep this because it's so important, and you should throw it away. Just disturbing, it's just accumulating dust. But no, and so your room you accumulate so many nonsense things what you never need, but just because you're attached, right? There are so many attachments we have. And a rishi, he understands this is good, so this is not good. I don't need that. It's not getting attached to so many things. Okay, so samadhi means one-pointedness, complete absorption, and the next yoga yoga ridi, it's said. It is, concentration of the mind, the yoga, and then ridi is called supernatural power. Supernatural power. Does some of you know what is a supernatural power? You can say one supernatural power. What is it? What is a supernatural power? Yeah?
Flying.
Flying, yes, flying is very good. Okay, something else?
To be smaller than the smallest.
To be smaller than the smallest, yes. Can transform, shrink, yes.
To shoot lasers.
To shoot laser with your eyes, yes, very practical. Yeah, actually this is there also in Shastra. Yeah.
To be invisible.
To be invisible, yeah. That's what they can do. They can make themselves invisible. Amazing. What else? Someone else? Remember something?
Teleportation.
Teleportation, yeah.
What?
Teleportation.
Teleportation. No.
Yes. To disappear and appear somewhere else. Nach Indien, yes. Without flying. Very practical. Yeah, it's also interesting. They can disappear and appear somewhere else immediately. Yeah? Beaming, huh? How's it called? Beam me up, Scotty. Yeah, beaming. Huh? Beam me up, Scotty. Beam me there. So what else? Someone remember something? Yeah.
This to erweitern.
To expand. To make multiple bazaars for better management. Yes, this would be very helpful. Yeah, to have more of yourself. This is also possible. Amazing, or? It said in Shastra that yogis, they can do that. But only to some degree. Krishna can do this unlimitedly. Krishna can make unlimited Krishnas and act independently without getting confused. Who is me now? It's all me. Yeah, and these sages, they can probably say something, I think 7 or 8, right? Copies, and then you can act. Yeah, interesting quality. Yeah, interesting power. What else? Someone remember something?
Manifesting. Manifesting something.
To manifest something. Yes. Yeah, there's also prapti siddhi. It's called prapti siddhi. Prapti siddhi means actually to get things which are far away. And Prabhupada says, a yogi can stretch out his hand until the moon and get something from there. Not just some dust or stones, because the moon is actually a heavenly planet. Or he expands his hand to India or something, get a mango. So it's not that his hand gets really physically elongated, but it means he can, cover the distance with his mystical power and manifest things here. Yeah, what else?
Create planets.
To create planets, yeah. Even that is mentioned at one powerful sage, I think it was Vishwamitra Muni, he was creating a planet out of his power.
To breathe under the water.
To breathe under the water, yeah. Some can do that. Huh? They stay under the water like, what's his name? Sarabi? So,
Maybe the yogi in the Rotterdam.
yeah, what was his name? With S. Saubhari. Saubhari Muni. Huh? Yeah. He was meditating there. There's actually a temple in Vrindavan for Saubhari Muni. Who has been to Vrindavan? Some of you have been to Vrindavan? You have been to Vrindavan? Yes. It's very nice when you go on the Parikram marg behind the ISKCON temple, and normally you turn right. And then you walk more or less than when you come to Radha Madha Mohan temple on this marg. But when you go left, you go out of Vrindavan more or less, and you go into some dust place, and you go to some fields and some villages, and you walk maybe half an hour. And then you come to, I have a video actually, I made once a video also about it, Saubhari place.
To enlarge the lifetime?
Okay, we come back. I just tell this story, then you can. This is also a good point, yeah. So, and then you go there, and there's 3 Babajis living. When I was there, there were 3, like one older, one middle young, and one younger. Both all with dreadlocks and beard, and this is the Saubhari temple. And they have a murti of Saubhari. Actually, they have 2 murtis. One is very new, and one they say they worship since Satya Yuga or something like that. Very, very old. And I came there and waited for darshan because it was closed, and I was waiting. I was very anxious to see Saubhari Muni. And then the altar opened, and there he was. I should have a photo or something there. Maybe you can find online for sure. And he looked really powerful. real intense. Like the eyes were like angry and staring, and with a beard, he was sitting there like this, and just, okay, Sabari Muni, of obeisances and Murti, and they worship Sabari Muni. That was their main deity there, Sabari Muni. So in this story, shortly, I don't want to tell it in all details, it's in the 9th canto of Bhagavatam. So Sabari Muni was meditating not far from this temple, because there's the Yamuna, in the river. Underneath, he was sitting on the ground of the river, in the water. And he was meditating there for a long time. Completely absorbed. Why was he doing that? Why chose he such a place? Yeah, because these sages, they want to, be alone and do also austerities. Because it said, if you want to do austerities, you go somewhere where there's no one else. And he was sitting there meditating. Long time. And suddenly, because what is happening in the river, there are many fish. And 2 fish were swimming by, actually a male and a female fish, and they had sex. And he saw that in his meditation, and the most amazing thing happened, that he became inspired to do the same. Somehow or other he was inspired, I also want to have a sexual relationship. In the middle of his meditation, more or less. Because he saw the fish, he was inspired. So he stopped his meditation, went out of the water, and went to a king. Nearby was a king in his kingdom, and he knocked on his door. Hello, yes, what do you want? Excuse me, do you have some daughters of yours who can, help me out? He asked for the hand of the princess. And the king who saw Sabari Muni was like wet and like maybe a little bit green. I don't know, when you sit so long under the water. He was not looking very attractive and respectable. With his beard and hair and dripping and I want your daughters. And the king said, no problem, because sages were respected. No problem, but just ask them yourself. Because the king expected that they will say, no, thank you, but no thank you. So the Sabari Muni understood the mind of the king and said, okay, maybe he is right. I'm not looking very respectable and attractive. And because he's a mystic yogi, he transformed himself in a beautiful man. And so he walked to the princess, because there were many. And he said, I'm actually a sage, this and that, and some of you would like to marry me. And all of them said, yes! He was so attractive. He said, all of them, yes. And he said, whoa, that's a good deal. He got all of them. So, and then said he enjoyed for some time female company, but it became more and more troublesome. Right? More and more troublesome. And because they started to quarrel. He's my husband. No, he's my husband. He's my husband. So there was a lot of quarreling going on amongst the princess. And at one point he had enough. He said, okay, I had enough pleasure here. And he, Hare Krishna, and he left. Not very, it's not to recommend. That's not what should be done. But anyway, he's Sabari Muni. He is different and can do. So he left the company and went back into his water. I said, okay, I experienced that. I experienced the pleasures of life and gave them up. This should be the moral.
What was the last word?
This is the moral. The moral.
Gave it up.
I gave it up. Yeah, this is the moral. He gave it up. Yeah, so this is and that's why the Bhagavad Gita says, material pleasures, they are just in the mind. And that's the reason why a yogi or a devotee who controls his mind is not inclined towards material pleasures anymore, because understands this is only in the mind. In the end you say, it was not that wonderful. The mind makes everything wonderful or not wonderful. This is the quality of the mind. This is wonderful, this is great, I want to have it, it must be so super, this, that. And then, actually not. And the same also with the negative. The mind says, this is terrible, it's painful, it's so bad, and this and that, but actually not. So, speculations of the mind. So when we control the mind, you overcome the dualities of life. And this is why Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter says, the one who controls his mind, the super soul, is attained. A transcendental state is attained. Yeah, it's very powerful. So yeah, we spoke about renunciation and its qualities. So you mentioned to live very long, right?
Yes, to enlarge the
Lifetime.
Live maybe for 100.
Yes, live hundreds of years, thousands of years. Yeah, there's also a supernatural power to live very long, and yeah, yogis can do that also, live very long. So these are these so-called siddhis, and there are ashta siddhis. There are 8 main spirit mystical powers. Many of them we mentioned already, and these rishis have these powers. Flying, also very nice. Okay, and then it's a tapo. Tapa means a renunciation. So they can be very renounced. And it's not just renunciation. Tapas is also like, what is the word? In German you have Buße. Or it's more like self-inflicted pain. We can say like this.
Kannst du das auch übersetzen? Self-inflicted pain.
Selbst auferlegte Schmerzen. Selbst auferlegte Schmerzen. Yeah. There are different kinds of tapas there. Yeah, you can do renunciation or this, yeah, to gain some powers. Huh? It's this what they do. Like Hiranyakashipu, we see on this picture. He was standing for, I don't know how long, but he was standing, it said, on his toes. Just on his toes with stretched arms like this, was standing like this. I think it's very painful. Standing, but no problem. I stand like this to attain powers, to actually please Brahma. So this tapas. And then vidya. Vidya means knowledge. These rishis, they are very intelligent. They have lots of knowledge, but they're also very intelligent. And not in a material way, in a spiritual way. They really know what is reality and deal according and act according to that. We are so often, or a non-rishi living entity is so often bewildered by reality because we don't know reality and act in wrong ways. And then in the end, viraktimat, renunciation. Very renounced, very simple living, very, very simple living. So these were the powers of these rishis which were given by Brahma to them. So they are extraordinary living entity and they have their own planet. Actually, this planet is also called Tapoloka. We know there are 14 lokas, worlds. And we are on the 7th world. It's called Bhumandala, Bhuloka. This is the earthly realm. And then there are 6 more above us, higher regions. Yeah. And this Tapoloka is almost one of the highest. Tapo, what is this? Maha, Chana, Tapoloka. So Tapoloka is the 6th. 7th is Satyaloka, where Brahma himself resides. But Tapoloka is one step down.
Isn't the 6th for the Kumaras? The Kumaras? The 4 Kumaras.
What's with them? If they are also there, you mean? On Tapoloka?
I thought they are before Brahman or something.
Yeah, then they must be on Tapoloka. But Tapoloka means that, Tapa. This is the world of this renunciation, for these renunciants, for these rishis. So the rishis, they are way higher than the demigods. They are down on Svaloka. We have Bhuva, Sva. And this Mahaloka, Chanaloka, Tapoloka. I think it's like this, no? So Sva is not so high. Heavenly planets are not so high in that sense. They're higher than us, but still it's not on this range. So the rishis are more powerful. Good. Okay, that was to this verse. So that Brahma creates all that. And now let's talk shortly about Brahma. A couple of minutes. So Brahma, as I said, he is this creator of the universe. And he's also the most intelligent. He is the most intelligent. He's so intelligent, he has 4 heads. He has 4 brains. 4 times IQ, 4 core processor. 4 core is actually not so much, but still he's Supreme intelligence. I think I never read it in Prabhupada's books. Maybe it's there, but it said his body is made out of intelligence.
Yeah.
I always hear that, but I can't remember where it is written in the books. But yeah, it's in the third canto. Okay, it's said there, right? Okay, thank you. Good that we have devotees who read Prabhupada's books. So this is yeah. Okay, it's there. Because our body is made out of the gross elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, and then we have the mind, intelligence, and then ego, and his body is made out of the subtle element of intelligence. This is already nice. So in that sense, Brahma is more, his body is more like a spiritual body than our bodies. He's almost spiritual, you can say, because his body is so subtle, like spiritual energy. And it's so subtle. It's not so much away from being a spiritual entity. Meaning that the covering of the soul is also very light. And that's also said, when the living entity comes first time in the material world, he becomes Brahma. So Krishna is not, okay, you become a worm. You don't want to be with me? Oh, become a worm. No, he says, okay, you don't want to be with me? Because you want to be me? Okay, this is the best I can offer to you. Be a Brahma, get your own world, get your own universe. Be something like me. No problem. He's not envious. Okay, if you don't want to be with me here, a material world, but you're responsible for it, If you mess up, then you become a worm. But don't blame me. I made you a Brahma. So and then the Brahma involves himself in the creation. And he's definitely not the Supreme. Krishna is the Supreme, and we have this beautiful, important story in the Bhagavatam where Krishna shows Brahma who is Supreme. Right? And this Leela is also called Brahma Vimohana Leela, the pastime of the bewilderment of Brahma. Yeah, we know this Leela when he was... And what was his bewilderment? His bewilderment was that he could not... he was not understanding, because he thought he put the cowherd boys and the cows in the cave, and then he sees those who put in the cave still being there. And he could not recognize that Krishna duplicated or imitated, them. And normally Brahma, he cannot be bewildered. He sees immediately, this is not the original, right? He could distinguish. You cannot cheat him like that. But the imitation or the copies, they were perfect. So he could not see that. So he was in that sense bewildered. He couldn't understand what is now the original. I put them there, but they're still there. And he couldn't see the difference. Krishna made the so perfect, the copy so perfect. And he was so bewildered that his heads, they reeled. And they became... Because somehow or other for him it must be important to understand things. And he probably had never experienced that, to not understand, because he created the whole universe, he understands everything. Right? Whenever there is some situation in the Bhagavatam and Brahma comes in, he always comes in being very aloof, always being kind of neutral. He's not implicated, involved in the stress that demigods have with the demons or the bewilderments of... He always comes in as the grandfather of the universe who stands above it, and he clears the things, and he's the shelter. So it's not that he gets implicated, so to say. And this was a rare situation when he was really getting bewildered. And it was too much for him, that he, what's going on? It was like perspiring and error. It was a huge error in his brain. Yeah, the system was lagging. And then Krishna, I don't know if he enjoyed it, but he wanted to show him. And then we said, okay, it's getting too much. His heads might explode because of this error. Then he showed him, okay, it's me. And all these cows and cowherd boys showed to be the Vishnu forms, expansion of Krishna. And suddenly Brahma saw unlimited Vishnus, who all are expansions of small cowherd boy Krishna. And then he was, oh my God, what have I done? And immediately offered obeisances. Yeah. And we have this other pastime, which is quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Brahma came to Dwaraka and the powerful Brahma came to Dwarka to see Krishna at darshan. And there was a doorkeeper, and the doorkeeper says, "Oh, what you want?" "Yeah, I want to see Krishna in Dwarka." And the doorkeeper says, "Oh, one moment, I inform the Lord that you are here." And he goes to Krishna and says, "Oh, Krishna, Brahma is standing in front of the door, he wants to see you." And Krishna says, "Oh, that's very fine, but ask him, which Brahma?" And the doorkeeper comes out and says, "Oh, the Lord will receive you, but he wants to know, which Brahma are you anyway?" And this might be a legitimate question for anyone in the universe, because maybe not for Indra, he might also be offended. "There's only one Indra. How, what's going on here?" So Brahma, he is really the one and only. Because Indras, there are many Indras. There are 14 Indras on one day of Brahma. There have been so many Indras, maybe not at the same time, but even at the same time, we have the story with, who was it, Nahusha? There's one king who became Indra because Indra wasn't there, and right, Indra is also not such an unique position. It's quite unique, but there's only one Brahma. As long as the universe exists, there's no change in that, only one Brahma. So the question, which Brahma are you anyway, was in that sense a bit triggering for him, and he said, what do you mean with which? I'm the Brahma? And it said then, well, how was it? Then Krishna came out? Huh? Huh?
He told him the father of the four Kumaras.
Huh?
He told him.
Okay, I'm Brahma, the father of the four Kumaras. But then Krishna came out and he showed him, because he seemed to be puffed up. I'm the Brahma, one and only, ever, Brahma, hello, it's me. And so Krishna called all the other Brahmas, because there are many Brahmas also, but not in a universe. There are many, 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 many universes, unlimited universes. They all expand from Mahavishnu. And in each and every universe, there's a Brahma, this creator who creates everything in the beginning. So Krishna calls many other Brahmas to Dwarka, and it said, it's very interesting, that our Brahma is actually the smallest. And he has only 4 heads. Because we live in the smallest universe. And the other universes are bigger, and they need bigger Brahmas, and they have more heads. And it said some of them had thousands and millions of heads. So they all came there, and Krishna is there, and all these Brahmas standing there, who are huge, which were huge, and our Brahma was so small, with 4 heads. I'm not so special, a Brahma. And all of them offered prayers to Krishna and bowed down. And Krishna asked them, "How is everything in your universe?" And they said, "Oh, everything is fine, and thank you very much." And he gave them darshan, and then they excused themselves and left. And so Brahma was very, very humbled. And there's a statement, actually, I remember in this regard, which is said, in the absence of big trees, small trees become prominent. And some Prabhupada disciples and gurus in ISKCON feel actually like that. And they say, in the absence of big trees, small trees become prominent. And they say, because Prabhupada is not here, who is the big tree, we now are like, ta-da. But actually, it's only because he is not there. And so we should also feel like that, because some of us might have a problem with that, being puffed up sometimes, feeling proud, I'm better than others, important. It's only because your guru is not there. And if you are even puffed up in front of your guru, then that's bad. Get out of it. Yeah? In front of our gurus, naturally, normally, we're very humble, very servant mood, very nice. That's how it should be. But if this regulation is not there, we tend to get intoxicated by our greatness, which is an illusion. So we need an association of advanced devotees to become more, And one friend of mine told me recently, he was visiting first time a temple. Recently, he was visiting first time a temple, and first time he had like closer association with devotees. And he's a devotee himself, but practices only alone at home, somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And he's quite strict, he chants many rounds a day and he reads and everything. But now he told me that first, when he was now in the association of devotees, that he said, and I could see so much my false ego. Before I thought I'm maybe good and I'm advanced, living with karmis or work colleagues, and of course you think you're the great devotee amongst all the karmis, so to say. But then he was in front of devotees and he even met Maharaj. And he said, wow, it was very intense, to feel really humbled. But it was very good to see a little bit clear who I am. So the association of devotees is very, very important for us to become who we are actually. So Brahma was really humbled and he thanked Krishna for that. Thank you very much for this lesson. If we are puffed up, maybe demonic, then we might not like a humiliation like that. But actually, if we're devotees, we like to have this regulation and to come into a situation where we can freely feel humble and be more down to earth and come off our ego trip. So, and the interesting detail in that regard is that all these Brahmas who were standing in front of Krishna could not recognize the other Brahmas. Krishna made something very mystical. He showed himself, all of them thought they are only with Krishna. So in one sense, Krishna appeared in front of them in their universe and at the same time brought them in a place where they were all assembled. Understand? He showed his power, his mystical power. At the same time, he empowered Brahma to see all of them and see the scene. But they were not seeing it. So Krishna can expand time and space, adjust it according to his will, overcome any, contradictions. Krishna is the supreme ruler over everything, according also to his laws and principles. He doesn't have to apply to the law of nature or this and that. He is so powerful, and there he showed also. And at the same time, even being so powerful, in charge of everything, he's so sweet, humble, nice, friendly. He's never on an ego trip. And even being absolute in any way, he wants all of us to be his best friends. And pretending that he is like us, and sometimes he's even lower than us. It's amazing.
Can you repeat the last sentence?
Yeah, even pretending to be on the same level as us, or sometimes lower as us, as we see in the inhabitants of Vrindavan. And this is why Vrindavan is so celebrated, because there Krishna can be who he really wants to be. He doesn't want to be the God and Brahma, create anything, this and that. He leaves this to them. He wants to be the friend of all living entities, serve them, please them, love them. This is who he is. He is love personified. And Vrindavan is the place of this manifestation of love. And everyone is in this mood and in this sweetness. And this is the great present of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to give us this knowledge about Krishna. And we should follow in this line to get one day also gracefully, mercifully uplifted to this reality. Become one of these associates. This is very, very amazing. And it said, if you have still some Aishwarya Gyan, then you go to Vaikuntha. In Vrindavan, there's no Aishwarya Gyan. Zero. No knowledge about Krishna's opulence, divinity. No. There, Krishna is a friend, he's a brother, he's a child of someone, he's a son, he's a lover, all that. But no Aishwarya Gyan. And last point in this regard was Brahma. When Brahma, in this Brahma Vimohana Leela, was there with Krishna, he made also a puja. It said he made like a puja to Krishna, worshipped him. Oh, sorry that I did that, and worshipped him. And then he left. And actually the cowherd boys, they were watching that from behind. And they were wondering, what is this ugly, four-headed monster doing with our Krishna? He thought, well, who is this weird person? And then he came out of the bushes when he was gone, and they imitated this puja. And yes, so we take some, oh Krishna, we make puja to you now. Oh, this, that, and they imitated. Like they made fun out of the scene. Yeah. And Krishna is not, oh, who dare you? Make a proper puja, what's that? No, he enjoyed it and had fun with them. And then, yeah, okay, let's go back herding the cows and having fun. So this is Krishna's. And actually in Chaitanya Charitamrita it said that Krishna says, the whole world, the whole universe, they worships me in this, with reverence and opulence, but actually, I don't like it. It's actually said, actually, I would like to be in Vrindavan, play with my friends, and that they hop on my back and say, oh, I'm stronger than you. Or that Mother Yashoda said, come here and sit down, eat something. Or when Radharani says, go away, I don't want to see you. He enjoys this way more. But for that we have to be very, very qualified. We cannot imitate this prematurely. Okay, not then. Oh, Krishna is easy. No, we have to do our sadhana very properly to be allowed to have such a relationship with Krishna. Because then we wouldn't make offenses. So we cannot imitate. So we follow, but don't imitate. This is the art. So Hare Krishna, thank you very much for your attention. Any questions? So I think Vito was before, because during the lecture you had a question. Is this still relevant? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes, my question was, you were talking about that sometimes we think through our false ego that we are the controller, and that we are in this material world because of that. Because we can be here the controller and live out our stupid ideas or whatever, but I read in a passage, and that's why I'm a little bit confused. I would like to ask you that it's just an illusion that we control, that all the time Krishna is the controller, that we don't control anything.
Yes.
So how is that?
That's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point. That you don't control. So we don't control anything. Krishna is in charge. But he lets us believe that it works like that. This is called Maya. Maya is it's in that sense it's an illusion that we are not the controller, so we are not even enjoying. So it's an illusory enjoyment, but during you enjoy it, it seems to be real and real enough to have your experience. And then in time, when we having higher knowledge and consciousness, we understand, oh, it's illusion and it's temporary and it's not necessary. But for the time being, it seems to be real and real enough. Maya makes it very real. And for that, this is the purpose of this material world, that we can fulfill our material desires. And material means, in that sense, illusory because it's temporary and it's not a real pleasure. But in the illusion, you think it's real and real enough. And then this should satisfy your material desires. Yeah? They are not spiritual. And in that sense, should also help in realizing that it doesn't really make you happy. But when we have material desires, they have to be materially fulfilled to some degree, to give them up. And then you understand, oh, it's actually not so important and not so relishable. Yeah? But to some degree they have to be fulfilled. You understand? So there's no contradiction what you say here. Krishna arranges this material, illusory universe that we can go into this illusion, do an illusory thing, and when we're done with it, we can go back to Krishna.
Therefore, what is our own? Nothing. So
what is our own?
Is the wish to become Krishna conscious also coming from Krishna?
The wish to become Krishna conscious when we have experienced the material world enough, so to say, when we kind of wake up. This is the desire of the soul. said Ananda Maya Vyasat. Okay, Ananda Maya Vyasat is also desire of Krishna to be always pleasure seeking, but Prabhupada says it's also desire of the soul to search for pleasure, fulfillment, and this is only in Krishna. So this is the desire of the soul.
So we can have the desire, but how we do, what we do is all dependent on Krishna. So
What do you mean? No, the desire, it's...
controls everything.
Huh? Yeah, Krishna doesn't remote control you, yeah, your spiritual desires. That's what I said in the beginning. We are independent, to some degree independent, meaning Krishna gives us some... As souls, we are capable of independent willing. And this is how Krishna wants us to be. We are not remote controlled. We are not like zombies or something, or think only what Krishna makes us think. No, you are your own integer. What is the word in English? In German you have Integrität. I don't know how it's integrity. We are all integrity person, so to say. Free, created like that, so to say. Of course, we are in that sense not created because we are eternal, but just for discussion's sake. And when we are properly placed, we always act and will and think and act for the pleasure of Krishna, but out of our own desire. But the desire is our own. This is not put by Krishna inside. This is the glory of a soul or living entity. This is the glory of being, that you are really you as your own self person. Of course, in relationship with Krishna. But there is and Krishna respects it. And in the spiritual realm, we are always doing that for the pleasure of Krishna, but out of our own. And this is love. Completely out of your own. There's no force. Not even the force, oh, I have to do like that, that Krishna is happy. There is no force. It's completely, I want to do it for Krishna. Out of your own will. Right? So the will, it is completely combined with the soul. This is the soul's innermost activity, to will, to want, this desire. Yeah? And in the material, it's just perverted. It's the same thing. The desire comes from you, but it's perverted by Maya, right? All the aspects of Maya, but it's perverted. But still, these desires come from you, but they are misdirected. And then we understand, oh, actually I should desire something else because this is just material and actually doesn't really make me happy. But as long we have these desires, we have to work on them, work with them. Some we have to fulfill, some we can give up. Right?
But how and what happens in my life is controlled by Krishna? Or?
Of course, this is why it's said in Bhagavad Gita, this 3:27, right? Prakrite kriyamanani, everything is done by Prakriti. The point is, everything is done by Krishna through Prakriti, because he is the material energy. We are not, as we always say, we don't lift our arm, we don't speak, we don't think. We do nothing of that. This is because you are not the body. So you are not acting because you are not the body. What you do is willing, desiring. You desire to speak, you desire to act, but this is done by Prakriti. It's not you, because you are not the body. Even thinking is done by Prakriti. You only desire to think. You desire, I want to think this and that. And the thoughts are given to you. Yeah? So in that sense, it's said everything is done by Krishna. But the desire itself, this is done by you. And it's the only thing. In the spiritual world, this is combined because everything is spiritual. But in the material, this is why it's said nothing is done by us. And nothing is controlled by us. In reality. There we come back to the remote control example. It's like when you play a computer game. You are not moving this, you are remote controlling the guy. You decide, it's like a remote control, but you are not the guy, you are not moving this, you do nothing. It's just your desire, you want this, and you remote control him. And so also the soul remote controls, in that sense, the body. But how it's done by the computer program. How it's done by Prakriti.
And Krishna is therefore the whole computer program, the hardware, the software.
Yes.
And when my will is in best shape due to the computer game and the remote controller, I get the grace of it.
Yeah, of course. Then we act in Krishna consciousness. Then we learn to use everything in Krishna's service, and through this get out of the computer game. He takes us out, and we don't stay inside anymore. Okay? Hare Krishna. Gut, Bernd?
Also Krishna kontrolliert nicht unsere Wünsche?
Nein.
Aber darum geht es mir gar nicht. Ich habe eine Frage zu Bhaktivinoda Thakurs Verschreibungstag. Gibt es da irgendwelche Informationen zu den Umständen? Ich habe da nie was drüber gehört.
Welche Verschreibungstag? Oh, actually, I don't know. Well, let me think. Oh, he left in Jagannath Puri, right? He left in Jagannath Puri. And in the last days of his life, he was more or less living like a Babaji. That we know, right? He was just chanting, being completely absorbed. And he left where now the ISKCON temple is. When you go to Puri, there's the ISKCON temple. This is actually I heard, right? This is where he left the planet, huh? Where the ISKCON temple is. But I don't know more now from how it happened. When was it? 1914? Or when was it? I think it was 1914. I think it was 1914, yeah. So, yeah, but if you want to read more, there are some books which might give you some details. Okay, yes?
Thank you for your lecture. I have one question regarding to
just
topic with Brahma, that Brahma, like that every living being, when it comes in the material world, at first it becomes Brahma. Of course, sometimes I hear something which say something other. That Prabhupada is right that Brahma is such a high living entity that after this material world is finished.
Yeah, he goes back to Krishna. Yeah, no.
Because he fulfills so many desires of Krishna and so on.
Yeah, I understand, and I also was thinking, how is it now? And I could at least.
Can you just conclude the question in short words?
Yeah, because I said that when we come in the universe first time, we become a Brahma. But at the same time, Prabhupada says that Brahma goes after this lifetime back to Krishna. Yeah. So it mustn't be a contradiction. First is, a living entity can maybe become Brahma also from this evolution, right? That it upgrades until becoming a Brahma, getting their own universe. So that's only I can understand. You can become Brahma either through coming from the spiritual world or coming up the ladder. And Prabhupada definitely says that there are two kinds of Brahmas. Or actually he said three kinds of Brahmas. Either it's a non-devotee Brahma, a devotee Brahma, or Krishna himself becomes Brahma. Sometimes he says that. When there's no qualified living entity to become Brahma, out of some reason, Krishna himself becomes Brahma. And he says, our Brahma is a devotee. This is why he will go to the spiritual world after this life. But he says there are also non-devotee Brahmas, and they wouldn't go back. So I would say there are different circumstances. So in that sense it can work out. And we are having right now a Brahma who is a devotee. So I wouldn't say that he was coming, it was a soul who came from the spiritual world, now become Brahma. Seems to me that he was one who became a Brahma. But maybe it's also like that a soul comes into this material world, becomes a Brahma, and immediately realizes, oh, I don't want to get involved, and goes immediately back. Maybe also. It's that unlimited universes, so there might be many variations and possibilities. So this is only what I can say. Maybe someone else knows something in this regard? No? Okay, last thing.
No, just about the thing that when Brahma takes his followers with him to the spiritual
world. Yeah, it's also said that Brahma, when he goes back to the spiritual world, he takes his followers with him, like sages and who live with him there. Actually, they also wait that Brahma goes back, and they go back with him to the spiritual world.
Are we followers of Brahma?
Are we followers of Brahma? We are in the line of Brahma, in the Sampradaya of Brahma, but we are not those associates. I don't think that we are counted in this group. I thought these are the sages who live with him in Satyaloka and do their austerities and meditation there, and then they go back. We are followers of Prabhupada, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, okay, thank you so much. Sorry for going over time. Sorry for not speaking much on Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And I was just going to Bhagavatam. We can never cover all the topics. It's a little bit too much then. Maybe today in the evening someone can speak on Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Srila Prabhupada Ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Srila Prabhupada Ki.